Let's take a look at some charts and information on Curve for Brave New Coin. So Curve is an AMM DEX focused on trading assets of the same value that do not fluctuate over time, ideally. In this case, most of those assets are stablecoins, so trading stablecoins between one another, USDC to USDT to DAI, or trading wrapped coins to other derivatives of that coin like ETH or REN-BTC, wrapped BTC, Synth BTC, that sort of thing. Each of these pools has various APY associated or reward APY associated. So this stuff gets complex in the calculations of sort of what to put your money in where, but it's pretty straightforward when you're looking at not being exposed to volatility if you're holding stablecoins while collecting a reward. Starts to look appealing for many people who don't want to stomach the volatility or don't want to handle the volatility of crypto, or just would rather collect the rewards, right? For Curve or the APY for the pool itself. Now you can sort this by volume, and really the 3 pool has the highest volume, and then the highest base APY is the USDT pool, and these will fluctuate based on any given day, what's going on in the market or in the pools themselves. You'll see Curve on Twitter a lot talking about, Julian talking about the rewards, and it's kind of too much to keep up with for me as somebody who personally doesn't really participate in much of this stuff directly. I can see for most people, it's just easier to like put it in here and forget about it and collect the rewards later. You're paying lower gas fees that way. You're not constantly managing all this stuff. You're not constantly trying to figure out where's the best APY or ARB. I think for most people, it's just easier to do it that way. Not that that matters, but just on the platform basis, just sticking it somewhere, setting it, forgetting it. Otherwise, you're managing the rewards, the gas fees, all that other stuff. But there's a ton of pools, ton of options here. And the more the better for Curve, the more the better for the ecosystem. The easier it is to transfer assets between one another, the better. If we look at the stats, you can see the APYs over time have really grown considerably, can continue to grow. Here's the Curve pool, or the USDT pool rather. So as far as a use case and executing that use case, I think Curve serves an important purpose and isn't really going anywhere. If we look at TVL took a slight hit, but not as much as some of these other platforms. This is DeBank reporting 6 billion TVL, down slightly really from 7.5. Not that big of a hit. Trading volume hit a multi-month high, continues to slightly perk up. You're not going to see traditional uni style volumes in total on something that only trades stablecoins, right? For the most part, you shouldn't really see a massive rise in volumes like you're seeing on uni. Transactions up as well in the past couple days, basically an all-time high on that front. Users slightly up, but overall not a lot of users in general. If we compare this to Uni V3, which just launched, has 904 million in 24-hour volume, and that's just V3, that doesn't include V2. So it's important to put that into context and not necessarily compare Curve to Uni or Sushi directly, and more of understanding what it is and what it does and what that volume is going to look like. Even still, Curve is above Bancor, it's above Balancer, it's above all these other DEXs which offer trading, probably because it's one of the few platforms that does what it does and does it well. And people know where to go. People know what Curve is, right? For the most part, I'd imagine. If we look at the total volume percentage-wise over the past week, it's at 7%. This is Uni, Sushi, ZRX, ahead of Bancor. So it's definitely not a non-factor here in the grand scheme of things. And if we look at the monthly volume for Curve, it's in the maroon there. So volumes are flat or rising, but it's not going anywhere anytime soon, especially if DEXs are here to stay. And this is a monthly record in volume, over 100 billion. It looks like it's approaching 150 billion, 120 billion. I don't know what this is in total exactly. Does it say? No. But it's, it's off the chart. 143 billion, is that right? Yeah, 144 billion this month. Just insane volumes. Another way you can compare all of these coins to say, okay, they're all DEXs. They all have some sort of revenue, whether it's protocol revenue or based on the trading, the supply side revenue. And Curve is here. We'll see what this means, if it means anything in the grand scheme of things over time. I'm hesitant to say like, oh, Sushi looks like a better buy versus Curve because it's got a lower market cap to annualized revenue. I think that's a dangerous game to play because DeFi is so new and these aren't exactly the same. It's a metric to look at, right? Curve is on the lower end and this is 30-day rolling, so this is going to change every day. That's another thing to consider. And this is similar to PE ratios, but not exactly. Tons of caveats. It's early days, but this is one thing you can look at if you're trying to parse through all these different options and sort of look at, okay, what is the total market cap? What is the total fully diluted market cap? That's something else you can look at as well when you're comparing all these together. If we look at transaction counts, since the token got released, transaction counts have been rising over the past few days, probably due to market volatility. But in general, along with many of these governance rewards tokens, you're not going to see too much on-chain activity. You're not going to see just rises. This isn't necessarily money or meant to be used as money or gas fees or any of that stuff. It's kind of just a reward that you can use to vote for stuff, but it shouldn't, if we see any of these governance tokens have these multi-month increases in transaction counts, I'd expect that to be highly bullish for the token. So I'm not seeing that on any of these, DeFi related governance tokens. Average transaction value is way up over the past couple days, likely due to market volatility as well. So despite price falling 70%, transaction values are at an all-time high. This could be China moving stuff around. This could be just market capitulation, fear, liquidations. It could be a mixture of everything, but it's probably more encouraging to see that if you're hoping for a bottom, when you see just people puking transaction sizes, right? Everybody's just trying to move this stuff and sell it. So this may indicate a liquidation, capitulation, more than anything. Looking at NVT over time, which measures on-chain activity versus market cap, NVT is basically at an all-time low. So kind of looking at this similar to market cap versus annualized revenue, another type of metric to try to understand this stuff. So despite a lot of on-chain activity recently, market cap continues to fall. So based on NVT, that's suggesting a bullish situation or a bottoming to price potentially based on this metric. If we look at active addresses, very similar to transaction counts, I wouldn't expect these to continue to increase. As long as they're not zero, I think we're okay here in general for these DeFi coins, but nothing too exciting on that front. If we switch to technicals, when I see this chart in a vacuum, very clearly there's two ranges, right? And it's in between those two ranges, and it's got a decision to make. Is it going to return to this range or is it going to return to this range? That's really all anyone's looking at for the most part, in my opinion, on these DeFi charts. The other part of this is there's potential for a 40% drop still back to this VPVR. This is volume at price VPVR support down here to this previous consolidation zone. So Curve had a chance up here on trend metrics to continue. If we pop on a pitchfork to this, which I hadn't done before, but looks super clean. You pick 3 points, you get a rate of change. This is overbought, this is oversold, and when it gets below the pitchfork, obviously that trend has ceased to exist. Now that isn't to say that we can't return to this, which would be basically 850 based on the rate of change, but it's not looking too great. If anything, you can use these pitchforks as a sanity check for, should I be selling? Should I think the dream is over for now? That sort of thing. Am I a community member down here? Am I in it for the long haul? Is this a hodl? Is this a buy? Because what's happening now is very different than what's happened since November as far as the expected rate of change for this trend. So you can either say bull trend's over, or you can say with a dash of hopium that you're hoping for 850 plus when this does resume sometime within the next 3 months, I'd imagine. So it's always worth keeping these on the chart or looking at them every once in a while, at least knowing that they're there, especially one like this. Link comes to mind as well, but Link's pitchfork is multi-year and it's just staying inside of that, bouncing around. So if this can get back up, I don't know what it's going to take for Curve to do that, but if it can get back in that zone, we can say, okay, Curve looks bullish again, right? And if we look on the trend metrics on the 12-hour for the cloud as well, it looks bearish. Again, it's below the cloud, but everything's going to look like this. Not that I'm excusing the bearishness. It's just very clearly we're breaking down from a range that had been established since February for a lot of these DeFi coins. So they had been raging February, March, April, and then mid-May just puke 70%. And everyone's trying to pick up the pieces now, figuring out where we go from here. Like I already said, VPVR support is basically sub 95 cents. There's a monthly pivot at 82 cents, something like that. And if you're bullish, what you're hoping to see is a return to this previous range from 210 to 380. That's what you want to see. You're likely going to see resistance at 210 on the way up, as you would with any range. But trend metrics are not happy with this right now on the bull side of things, for sure. Curve ETH continues to look quite tragic. I had boxed off this resistance up here that's held since late 2020, and it's failed to break above that. So really this is just the range in perpetuity until it's above 002 against ETH. It's likely to just continue bouncing around, and at this point it looks like it wants to go into bearish price discovery at all-time lows against ETH. And the 50 and the 200 have never been bullish against ETH on the 12-hour. So I would definitely say that this looks much more bearish than even the USD pair, which is at least in some sort of range still. And then looking at Curve BTC, it did crisscross on the 12-hour. The trend metrics were favorable for continuation. It broke up briefly, it was making higher highs, and then just didn't break up fast enough before the entire market sort of collapsed around it. And now it's back in this volume range. Even this looks less bearish than the Curve ETH pair does. So if this can get back into 7,000 sats zone or higher, I still like these projected targets of 14, 16,000 sats. Basically new multi-month highs effectively somewhere up there. Part of this issue with Curve price could be just too much rewards notionally to support price action to the upside. You can look at selling daily rewards as a percentage of monthly volume. My guess is that the daily rewards maybe just overcoming buying demand at the moment. Now that could change, but as it stands now, especially when price sort of fails to do anything at a range, it looked like it hit some sort of equilibrium potentially at that price point. So it's hard to be bearish on Curve, the platform, when they're seeing the volumes they're seeing, when they're seeing just the use case that they're seeing. It's just the token itself needs more time, but right now looks more bearish than bullish, we'll say it like that. Lastly, I'll just talk about the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio on Enzyme.finance. The ETH-BTC fund has done decently well, so I trade both of these. This one's mainly technicals and fundamentals. This one is less technicals, more fundamental related. But you can see AUM, allocations, performance, trades. You can see deposits, withdrawals. You can see all that stuff. And we do have Curve in the DeFi fund, currently a small allocation, but it is in there. And DeFi obviously got walloped over the past week. So this portfolio took a substantial hit on that down action. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.